Sup ladies, Metro here, and today we're taking a look at the Bloodmaul Slag mines. First dungeon testable in the Warlords of Draenor Alpha, which I have been privileged to test in. I'm doing it on the Monk tank today. I really do like Monk tanking, and I really like this dungeon. So I'm going to take a nice comprehensive first look at it, if that makes any sense to you. And hopefully you guys will learn some, get a good look at the dungeon, and learn some about the mechanics as well. Alright, so this dungeon, albeit the first one of the expansion and only on normal mode, is very unique. The first pack, we just skip through, it's really nothing, but immediately we get into the challenge. Up here you'll see a padding 3 pack that extends all the way down the hallway. Alright, the mob that I put a skull on there is the Overseer. This mob is going to channel a very, like that stun right there he's channeling. I blew my interrupt early, so I don't have access to it. You'll see the entire duration of his channel is a stun on one player, so that's very important. Obviously, you know, I'm making this with thoughts going into challenge mode, so that's going to be an extremely important part of this first pack. And since he does pat quite a while, it's going to be very important that you pull him at an optimal time. I could see it very easily. If you wait too long here, you're definitely going to either pull extra or you're going to have to sit here and wait even longer. The next area we're going to encounter is going to be the main area. It's going to comprise most of the dungeon. And you'll immediately see that there are 2 distinct paths. It's going to be rife with small yellow mobs that you could avoid, a few paths, and then of course solo elites that will likely get pulled just by novice. You see it here. I'm still learning how to play the class. I did not realize that the monk statue actually radiates threat now. I believe that's what aggroed those 2 mobs without my intention. But regardless, it's important that you pick to a designation here. And I'll show you why in the future, but essentially you'll want to just follow one path and pull as many mobs in that path only until you get to the boss. So we do choose to go left. You'll see I pulled this first path here, pack actually. It's funny, you see them go right for my statue. How nuts is that? That thing actually out-threats me unless I'm doing significant damage. Might just be alpha stuff, but anyway, the packs are going to be pretty consistent. There's going to usually be 2 or 3 of the same mobs and then 1 of a different mob. The mobs are not that important, especially on normal, but it's important to get used to these mechanics now. Essentially in this pack here we see 2 casters. They're constantly casting. Since interrupts are a lot different than they were in MOP and you know, any expansion really, it's important that as a tank you save yours and make sure you use them properly. Here I show the map a bit. It hopefully gets you guys a good feel for the direction we're going. At this point in the dungeon as I'm recording, I still don't really know exactly where I want to go. It's pretty obvious that it's a giant circle and it's going to be important that we follow that path. But regardless, it's going to be, we're going to have to pretty much make a full circle towards the end. So just be aware of all the types of mobs. Here's the overhand slam. I believe these are the mobs here, the enforcers. They do the overhand slam. It will stun you if you get hit by it, so you know, especially for challenge mode, maybe even heroic. Very important to understand that now. It's good practice. There it is there. It's good practice to get used to this now, because then when you get to heroic and challenge modes, you won't have much to learn. At this point, we're towards the end of the corridor, about to engage the first boss room. You'll see a bunch of ogre fleeing in fear. It's quite interesting. It does appear that the slag mines has gotten the better of these guys. It's going to be a bunch of fire elementals coming up. This will be the first boss. Now, once again, it's important that we point this out, alright? This is, especially when we're talking about timed runs, may not be the best strategy. I don't know. Obviously, I won't know until there's been extensive testing done. But I'm going to assume that going left first is the faster way. Get some paths out of the way, and then you could double back around for the second boss and loop back towards the door that does eventually open. In this room, though, is going to be what we consider the first boss, at least on our run. Once again, it's completely up to you how you want to handle it. Bunch of small adds, not really important. I'm just going to aggro the bigger ones, these giant earth elemental guys, medium-sized earth elementals, I guess. They do a frontal slash occasionally and put stuff on the ground directly in front of either where they're facing or the tank. You'll see those balls there. It's pretty important that you guys move out of this. Honestly, I feel like I got hit pretty hard in this dungeon. Monks do take a lot of damage, so I'm not surprised at that. I do a lot of healing on the contrary, but it is very important, especially if you're going to, you know, be going for high times, fast clears of this. It's important that you know these mechanics and understand them well. The small adds essentially do nothing, but if you keep an eye on the elites and the large ones, it should be pretty rudimentary. Next, we enter the official Slag Forge area and engage a larger fire elemental. He's pretty much, he's not going to do anything too crazy. As we encounter him, he's going to put these fire pillars all around the room. Essentially, just move out of it. Don't try not to take damage. It does seem like they are 100% random, so it's probably a bit more difficult than it looks. While this guy is active, there's going to be fire spewing from the sides. So be careful not to drag him too far. You'll see it there. Yeah, there's the big fire spew. This also spawns small ads, so do try to pick them up if you can. The mini boss, I guess, the large elite here does not really do much damage, but he's going to constantly cast, so you can't really go out of range of him. And then the rest of this room is pretty straightforward. I'm able to completely skip this. Our group does not successfully pull it off, but of course we have an offline guy, so that's very important. Make sure you kick offline. But yeah, all the rest of the mobs in here can be skipped. It does not look like they're very far away. We do aggro some of those small guys, so we'll drag them with us. And then down here is a pack of ogres that have formed a resistance against a giant rock elemental. Once again, the rock elemental is just like in the original. He's going to do this slash in front and then some damage on the ground. These two ogres are important. These guys are actually casters essentially. But what they're going to do is they're going to do a fear. Alright, both of them have the capability of fearing, and the same mob throughout the dungeon will reappear with the fear capability. If you have some type of AoE stun or silence, it's very useful to use it when they're both casting it. This often happens in the very beginning of the pull and will be extremely important for challenge modes. Especially when you're trying to open with a stun, make sure they're casting it first, because it is very, very, very dangerous. If this gets off, it has the potential to wipe you, not only because it's going to depose one of your players, but also because it may draw other players, other NPCs into your player pool. Other than that, just kill them both and move on to the official first boss of the instance. Alright, this boss is going to begin a theme in this dungeon. Which is going to be a lot of things on the ground. Alright, this is going to take place in two parts. You see him there, he's trying to hold in that elemental. Unfortunately, it is ultimately going to break out. Throughout this part of the boss, he's going to summon two ads, one rock and fire elemental. Ruination and Calamity, I believe are the names. The rock elemental is just going to do a stun around. He can be tanked. I would definitely recommend for both of these elementals, have him next to the mobs, or the boss, next to the ads he spawns. Very important to maximize your uptime, especially in higher difficulty, especially challenge mode. The quicker you can kill, the better. Likely just ignore the ads in challenge modes. I'm not sure exactly if they're going to alter the mechanics, but after you kill the rock, he's going to summon the fire. The fire guy is stationary, so definitely pull the boss towards him if you want to double dip damage wise. Well, he's not stationary. As you see there, he casts constantly, so if you're going to try to move him, interrupt him, and then once they're on top of each other, you can go full ham. He's going to put out a debuff, which can be dispelled by the healer, and he's going to do a AoE like damage thing, as you see happening right here. Just interrupt it. I'm foolish enough to not even try, but it certainly helps the group a lot. After the ogre falters, the elemental he was guarding will replace him in combat. Gives you a brief reprieve. This guy's kind of like staggering a bit with RP, and once he comes out, you don't drop combat, but you do get a few seconds. So if you need to time around this, you can. This guy is arguably even easier. His stun there is pretty difficult to dodge, but if you're on top of it, it's not too bad. He's also going to spawn these ads. They're basically just going to throw stuff on the ground. That's all you need to worry about. Once again, drag the boss to them. I believe these are the ones that are completely stationary. It's definitely recommended. I would at least say recommended to kill them. Maybe not in challenge mode. If you're pressed for time, you can probably heal through it. But I'd imagine the boss is going to have quite an extensive health pool, and these ads would definitely do with a death or two, because the more that they're out, the more damage they do. They do like Volcanic Tantrum, I believe is the name of the ability. We kill them very quickly, so I don't believe we ever see it, but just stuff like lines of fire on the ground, and the boss, essentially does the same. Just does a bunch of AoE splash damage, and the ads. That's pretty much everything, so we'll let this play out, show you guys the whole fight, and then we'll move on. Alright, so that boss is down. Obviously, you'll see there on the map, the only way is directly across to the second area. Both of these bosses are required before you can advance to the instance, so we're just going to go around the circle, exit this room the way we came in, and pull a bunch of trash and get ready for the second boss. Essentially, as I alluded to previous, it's important that you guys walk in here with a goal, especially if you're looking for like a challenge mode timed run. You want to make sure your group is is cohesive on how they want to approach it. At this point, I decided to go back around. It seems like the best option, as there is trash in front of us. There's actually a pretty substantial pack that, if I was smarter, I would realize that you can skip by just not ever going in one direction, which unfortunately I don't do. You won't see that in the video. I'll cut that out, but it's just another small hallway. In front of that, you'll see another elite and a 3-pack, and I'll show you why we made a pretty serious mistake coming back this way. Alright, so what you're going to see here is a 3-pack, and behind that you'll see sneaking in the corner, if I adjust the camera, which it does not appear I'm going to, is a Pat. So now if we approach this from the other direction, we pretty much guarantee ourselves safety in this regard. Once again, it's all hearsay at this point. I can't speculate on if this is going to be the more desired route, or if the other way is going to be. There's essentially 4 directions you can go based on the 2 bosses. You can start on this side, then go back around. You can go the other way. It's all a mess. But the packs from here on out are going to be pretty beefy. This is where I start to take a lot of damage as a monk. You'll definitely want to layer down as much CDs and as much AoE stuns as you guys have. Once again, a caster, straight up caster, and then a stun guy for this pack. And there's the Pat right there. Now, obviously, this is normal on the alpha, so it's not the end of the world. I don't believe... I actually think I might actually die here, but it's because of arrogance. Yeah, so there you go. I on purpose threw down my guardian, my statue, because Mioni, who's healing, he's like, "Come on, let's go. Let's give it a good run." And you're gonna see what happens here. It's these mobs, once again, those 2 mobs there that are casting the lava blasts at me now. Ogre Magi, they fear, so that's very bad. 2 of these guys enrage, and they enrage each other. So at this point we have, looks like 2 mobs, actually just a 1 enraged, not bad. But he's channeling the stun on, I believe that's the monk. No, not on the monk, maybe the warlock. But yeah, 5 of these mobs, as the size should indicate, is just far too much. You really do not want to try to take on this many. Maybe in challenge mode if you have good CDs and good DPS, but these guys are absolutely obliterating me. I managed to stay alive through clever use of all the different CDs, especially the blind, the disorient from the breath. Man, I'm drawing a blank, sorry. But yeah, it's very important. You'll see we really tag this one together, just kind of sneak by on it. And then pretty much for the rest of the dungeon, it's no more trash. It's just bosses. So we'll go to the next boss, and hopefully you guys will get a good look at it and understand it. So these guys come out as a precursor to the boss. The warders are going to be the fear mobs again. You'll see them. You'll see this in action very shortly. Let's check it out. Yeah, there we go. Frightening roar or something like that. Yeah, 2-second fear. I anticipate it and just back up so I don't accidentally get feared into the boss or anything stupid like that. Once again, if you do have AoE silence, AoE interrupt, AoE stun, I would definitely recommend using it on that. Pretty much the only thing that can kill you at this point is your own mistakes. Alright, so once the boss is engaged, you'll notice a few mechanics immediately. Unfortunately, this boss is pretty weak. That slam there he does is quite easy to avoid, but it's definitely a very big damaging component if you do get hit by it. There he did his ferocious yell that needs to be interrupted if possible, and there he did his raise the minors, I believe it's called. Not underage females. I'm talking about these subjugated minors that they have controlled here. They're basically going to rush towards a player who gets targeted with his final ability called Crushing Leap. Alright, see them there. They're rushing right towards, I think that might have been the warlock who was leaped on. Either way, it's important that you kill these, especially since when they are fixated, they cannot be taunted or anything like that. I guess you could stun them, but they do a lot of damage to whomever they are attacking. And the boss is going to be jumping around. Might as well kill him. The only other thing that should be of import to you guys is that you see there enters a friendly one. Let's take an eye on his health. I don't have health bars on for a friendly, but it looks like he's still alive. I at least noticed that they don't last very long. The Dungeon General recommends that you heal them to keep them in the encounter. Yeah, there. It looks like he died there. I can't see. I wish I had friendly health plates on for this. After all, alpha is alpha. But anyway, the friendly miners, they do a decent amount of damage to him. This boss has an immense amount of health for just your 5 players. So while the Dungeon Journal may be accurate in this, it's probably more important than it lets on. The more damage you can get, the easier it is. And I'd imagine for challenge modes especially, keeping those guys in the fight may really speed up your time. I'm not 100% sure if they're going to tune it around. You know, it's just a simple mechanic that you could avoid or do based on your interests. But just the amount of damage that goes out in this fight alone is quite substantial. So if you're not going to be taking care of things, you know, you're taking care of business early, the boss is going to last quite some time. And I think I'm going to actually, yeah, I die here. So that's 5 mobs hitting me, you know, mostly. Some of them might have been in the back. And the boss. I take the res, try to grab these guys, but I believe they might be fixated. Looks like the group's about to be damned, and you'll see last-minute heroics from the monk tank. Watch this. It's absolutely ludicrous. We're going to look together, right? So the rest of the group's just taking the crazy AoE damage is happening. Not even 100% sure how it's, you know, I guess it's just part of the fight. Looks like the final DPS dies, and there goes the healer. And now it's time to laugh. Here we go. Do it. Come on, Metro, do it. You're going to do it, aren't you? I can tell when I'm going to do some, and it's going to be very, very soon. Look at that. Where is it? Soon. Yeah, I'm just wasting time now. But anyway, the monk execute is now absolutely ludicrous. I can actually see this guy's health, and I could have killed him like 4 seconds ago, but yeah, pretty easy to one-shot him. And then there's this cutscene. Pretend you're driving a race car through these tunnels. It's likely going to be the only time you can drive a race car through these tunnels. I don't believe that's going to be part of the alpha or perhaps the beta. But if it is, you'll be able to drive a race car through these tunnels. Bring them to me alive, Roltall. They will fetch an excellent price. So there's going to be a bunch of trash, but in the interest of time, it's all the exact same from previous. Just once again, if you see an overseer, make sure you interrupt it or stun it. And if you get the overhand, crush, like fucking Gregor Clegane style, just move. You know, just move away. It's just that easy. It's move, just move. You know. So we're gonna reconvene at the next boss, which is quite a dandy. Boss 3. Here you go, Roltall, Fiery Boulder. All you need to know, ladies and gentlemen. Very, very, very interesting encounter. Cannot wait to see it on higher difficulties, especially challenge mode. Because that's a very interesting thing right there. You see that? The Fiery Boulder. It's going to roll them down Donkey Kong style. Going to put them on the ground, and they're going to roll. I'll try to get you a good look at it, but it's not the easiest thing to see as a tank. Take my word from it. They roll. Alright, like ludicrous. They roll. So, very, very interesting. Looks like a Warlock did not heed the call of the boulder. Second mechanic is the Heatwave, I believe it's called. Yeah, I think it's Heatwave. He's pushing us, long story short. You'll see why that's dangerous very shortly. Now, the third ability is called Burning Slag. All right, the Burning Slag is going to place some Firaga on the ground. If you stand in it, you will take ticking fire damage, potentially harming your health pool. And the Heat Wave and the boulders are going to complicate this, right? Obviously, the boulders rolling down the middle. If you're not out of it, you're going to get stunned. You might get stunned in the fire. You might get, you know, maybe you die. Maybe you fight a bear in real life. I don't know. All these things are possible, but it is up to you, ladies and gentlemen. This is a video game, and it is what you make it. All right, so here you go. We're going to show you the force of the fire, the Heaty Wave, once again. Heat Wave, especially not in Miami. Unfortunately, the Miami Heat lost 4-1. It couldn't happen to a nicer guy. I really can't stand LeBron James, but that's a topic for another time. So anyway, you see now he's really covering this. I think I'm going to get a swing around at the camera here. Just going to show you guys how much of this room is actually covered. If I don't, I apologize, but it's spoiler alert. It is a lot. A lot of it is covered. The boulders continue to roll, and once again, the fire complicates this. Especially if you're standing in the back, it might be pretty complicated. Maybe just fire to your left, fire to your right, clowns to the left of you, jokers to the right, and here you are stuck in the middle with the boulder and you. So it's, you know, it's a reference, but it is poignant in its case. So you could easily, you know, avoid the pushback. Not sure if it's intended. Also, I feel like it's kind of strange. Sometimes I feel like I can just run and don't move at all. Other times I can't avoid it, have to roll, something like that. But perhaps that's just a druid giving us roar. I'm not 100% sure. Now I think the warlock died and didn't come back. There you go. Look at. Are you joking? Just let that sink in. That is the entirety of the platform. Everybody's dead, but here we go. Monk tank, monk tank, monk tank. Watch this, watch this, watch this, watch this, watch this, watch this. I apologize. Got a little bit silly there. That's never going to happen again. JK, it's definitely going to happen again. All right, so anyway, we skipped most of the trash in here is just single pulls. This giant Gug'rokk / ogre guy, I'm not really sure what to call him, but regardless, he does a little knockback. It's pretty straightforward. If you need help on the trash at this point, you could probably just go ahead and leave the instance. You're not going to be able to complete it. And these guys are pretty interesting, so we're going to show these. They can come, there's 4 of them, but one of them is solo. I'm going to show you why they're interesting, hopefully. There you go, so Erupting Flame, that can be interrupted. That's a pretty cool ability. Hopefully I do show it in the next pack. And I guess we're just going to use large damaging abilities to reduce this mob's health to 0. That's what we're doing currently. And then we're going to pull all 3 of these. Once again, this is a great pack for AoE stuns, interrupts, and silences. Very important. Look at the statue. Oh, the stat. All right, we're not going to get silly. We're not going to get silly. All right, so here you go. So I marked one with Skull. You'll see why, hopefully. I really want to show this off. I'm not sure if I got good footage of it. So there you go. Can't cyclone something, fire, I don't know, but they're shooting a bunch of fire out. And then you see that orange, that red ball? That was another one of the abilities. That's the interruptible ability. I think I might be able to get a better look at it. Yeah, there it is. Erupting Flame, I believe the name of it is. Unfortunately, some fucking dick interrupted it. I'm trying to make a video here. But anyway, yeah, somebody interrupted it. There's one there. See it on the right side of the screen. It just looks spectacular. I mean, truly spectacular in the purest sense. But I do love it. I do love the mechanic and the ability. So that's it for the trash in the dungeon. Trash is done, and the hardest boss is yet to come. Right, this is a very, very difficult boss for a number of reasons. Unfortunately, he is going to do a lot of AoE damage. Okay, and when I say a lot, I mean a lot. This mob is the boss is gonna put fire on the ground. He's gonna summon these ads, and if the ads get to him, it is certain disaster. So anyway, most of the mechanics this boss does are... Let's talk about them, alright? The first one's called Molten Blast. You might see him cast it sporadically. He's also going to summon the ad there, as you see, and put the fire on the ground. Fire is... you just move out of it, but it is going to really encompass the entire room, as you'll see towards the end of this video. It is just... it's filled. The whole room is filled, and the ads don't care. They run right through it. The ads summon Unstable Slag there. You see them there. They're going to go towards that kiln. If they do reach the kiln, it's disaster, as I alluded to. They are going to do a ton of AoE damage. Luckily, yeah, that one does. I think that one reached it. I can't tell. I think that guy might have knocked it back. But anyway, if they do, they're going to do a ton of AoE damage. Another source of AoE damage is if you're not interrupting Molten Blast by the third, if he casts 3, he gets an ability called Molten Core. I think that's the name of a raid or something like that. I've heard it before. It sounds familiar. But anyway, he's going to do a bunch of AoE damage. The first time I ever did this place, it was we pretty much wiped because of that. Luckily, I'm Monk Tank, so I'm just healing myself to full with one ability. Pretty crazy. He's also going to do... that's, I guess, everything. Really, the trick is that he puts a bunch of stuff on the ground, which fills the entire room. This does not go away. Alright, and then these fire ads really need to be handled. So if you got a bunch of melee, once again in challenge modes, melee really get the shaft, unfortunately. It's just how it goes. So if you're melee, you pretty much... you could stun them, root them, slow them. I believe that's everything. You might be able to... I don't know. Yeah, that's probably everything. But it's definitely important that you stay out of the fire and kill the ads at the same time. So it's not always the easiest thing. You have death grips, knockbacks like we do. We got an Ellie Shaman right there. Pretty cool. And that's pretty much the entire fight. It's definitely going to be quite the healing test. I think I might actually die again here. I don't even remember. Let's find out. Let's watch together. It's like we're watching the last episode of Game of Thrones. Nobody knows what to expect except me, because I've read the books. Oh yeah, so there you go. There's a great example. Look at the room. It is filled. That paladin is fucking deep in there trying to get some kills on the ads. Mioni's like, oh my god, where's this paladin? I'm like, dude, he's killing the ads. So, I mean, even if he dies, as long as the ad... yeah, he's good. He survives. He's like, look at, he's running a maze. How nuts is that? That dude's running a maze. Just like Tom Petty, dude, running down a dream. This dude's running through a maze. So here's another great example of Touch of Death, or Touch of Karma, or Life of Death, or Law and Order, whatever the hell the name of the ability is. I'm going to build up some... oh my god, look at how much damage it did. That's just so much damage. Don't forget the stats have been squished, so that is a really high amount of damage. But anyway, that's the dungeon. It's honestly probably my favorite dungeon in the alpha currently. That's a joke. There is only one, but even if there was more than one, this is really well made. A lot of the stuff I cut out doesn't deserve to be cut out, but if I did, it'd be quite an extensive video. I would definitely recommend you guys getting in there yourselves if you can. Probably one of the coolest parts of this dungeon is that there's a lot of like little corners and intricacies that really make the dungeon interesting. You'll see it's pretty fire based. It looks a lot like BRD, BRC as well, but it's so much more than that because there's these massive ogres walking around, and there is a lot of little nicks and crannies and you know, all these crazy things that like maybe Russians would say. I can't even speak the language. But anyway, if you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I'll be back.
It must be Harry. Missed with heroic leap.
Dear. One of Harry's recent tweets, his dog unfortunately passed on, and one of his tweets was hashtag my dog's dead. I just couldn't stop laughing.
Hashtag bark.
My dog's dead, bro.
Hashtag bark no more.
Yeah.
The last bark. His bark is worse than his bite.
Well, not anymore.